This is the Construction Leading Edge podcast from ConstructionLeadingEdge.com and ConstructionBusinessAccelerator.com. My name is Todd DeWalt, and it's my job to help construction business owners eliminate chaos and maximize revenue. Today I want to talk about one of the underlying problems behind what I call the skilled workforce delusion. I'm going to be speaking about this quite a bit over the next few months. If you're going to be at the Builder Show in Vegas in February, this is February 2019, then come see me at the Building Systems Council Lounge, February 20th, 4:30 p.m. I'm going to be talking about the skilled workforce delusion. I'm also going to be at JLC Live in Providence, Rhode Island, March 28th. Talking about that as well. Check out my website for more details, ConstructionLeadingEdge.com. But let me ask you this. What if some of the biggest problems facing the construction industry, getting people into the construction industry, getting problems solved on our job sites, what if those problems weren't actually problems, but they're actually symptoms of an underlying problem? So some of the biggest symptoms that we're dealing with in the industry right now include poor retention. We have a 61% turnover rate. 60% of the people in construction either get fired, get laid off, or quit their jobs every year. That's according to the National Labor Statistics Bureau. We have poor productivity. This is well documented. McKinsey has put out reports talking about how terrible the productivity is in the construction industry. We have quality issues. We have adversarial relationships. We have insufficient manpower. We're having trouble getting people into the trades. And I have a theory about what's really behind that. That's what I want to talk about today. But first, let's go back to November 1902. There were three men, Robert Falcon Scott, a guy named Wilson, and a guy named Shackleton, and they set out on an expedition in Antarctica. Their goal was to take a dog team to see if they could find a good route for an eventual attempt at the South Pole. Things did not go well at all. Scott inadvertently starved his dogs, making them impossible to control and nearly useless for pulling the sleds. Quickly, his men had to start pulling the sledges. The men themselves could think of nothing else but food because their rations were inadequate for the work of hauling the sledge. And then there was this mysterious disease that plagued the polar explorers. So Wilson, who was a doctor, began to check the men's gums and legs every Sunday for signs. Shackleton was the first to show these symptoms, although he was not told about this for several weeks, and pretty soon Scott and Wilson were showing symptoms as well. Before long, Shackleton was weak, had begun to cough up blood at night, and was in real danger of physical collapse, all while they're pulling dog sleds in Antarctica. These guys barely made it home. For much of the return trip, Shackleton was unable to do anything, just staggering alongside the sledges. And on their return to the ship, on the return trip home on the ship, they were bedridden. They were in a state of complete physical collapse, getting up only long enough to eat. And Scott remarked in his journal on the extraordinary lack of energy this disease provoked in him. Now, despite all this, Scott, the great explorer he was, began to plan a return trip to make an attempt at the South Pole several years later. Mindful of what had happened to them on their first journey, he sought out the latest expert advice about this mysterious disease from doctors and from other Arctic explorers. Now, the scientists of the day believed that this disease, this mysterious disease that nobody understood, was a result of acid intoxication of the blood caused by bacteria. Other experts believed that the disease was caused by darkness. That's right, they thought it was caused by darkness, or they thought it was caused by cold, or they thought it was caused maybe by hard work. Other theories included blocked pores and maybe even bad hygiene. So Scott took great pains to oversee the preparation of his supplies and the canning of food for his eventual attempt at the South Pole. So in November 1911, years later, Scott led an expedition to reach the South Pole. He had talked to all the experts. He had gone to great lengths to prepare his food and take steps to prevent this disease from hitting them again. But almost immediately, his men started showing symptoms of the same disease, many of them barely making it back to camp. In fact, Robert Falcon Scott and 4 other men never made it back. They just disappeared. They died out there because of this disease. Now, interestingly enough, around the same time, children of wealthy families in the U.S. and Europe began to suffer from the same disease as these polar explorers. They had the same symptoms. They had puffy gums, loose teeth, spots on the legs, lack of energy, and eventually death. So what was this disease that plagued polar explorers and wealthy children? 2 completely different groups, completely different parts of the world. What was this mystery disease that puzzled doctors of the day? Well, it turns out that it was not caused by bacteria. It was not caused by blocked pores. It was not caused by cold or darkness or hard work. In fact, it wasn't caused by the presence of anything. Rather, it was the lack of something. It was a deficiency of vitamin C. This disease was scurvy, which is caused by the lack of vitamin C. Now, this was not a new disease. In fact, it was very old. Sailors back in the late 1400s had figured out that if they ate lemons, then they wouldn't get scurvy. So over hundreds of years, since figuring out the root cause of scurvy, navies had switched to cheaper limes, which were cheaper and easier to get to than lemons, and they began boiling down the juice. And in the process of boiling it down, they destroyed the vitamin C that was in it that would prevent scurvy. Similarly, wealthy families had started heat pasteurizing their milk to make it safer. What they didn't realize is that their modern methods were destroying the vitamin C that was going to prevent scurvy. So this terrible disease could be cured quickly by following simple wisdom that had been figured out hundreds of years ago. All they needed was lemon juice. So these terrible, mysterious problems that were killing people could be solved by simply adding lemon juice. So this terrible disease was a result of a deficiency. And I believe that a lot of the problems we're dealing with when it comes to 2 groups of people were trying to get to come to work in the construction industry, and the people who currently work in the construction industry, a lot of those problems are a result of a deficiency. These problems, poor retention, high turnover, poor productivity, poor quality, adversarial relationships, the insufficient manpower, the difficulty attracting people to the trades, a lot of the root cause of those problems is a deficiency. And that's what I want to talk about in this episode. Now let's fast forward to 2009. A guy named Simon Sinek did a TED Talk, and it was entitled The Golden Circle. And if you haven't watched this TED Talk or seen any of Simon Sinek's stuff, I highly recommend you go look it up on YouTube. TED Talk, Golden Circle, Simon Sinek, S-I-N-E-K. And in this TED Talk, Sinek broke down what he believed to be the formula for success. And this is a formula that had been proven but sort of forgotten, and he came up with what he called the Golden Circle theory that he believed is the recipe for success for businesses. And if you imagine a bullseye, 3 concentric circles with a bullseye in the middle, he believed that the outer circle of the golden circle was the what. The middle circle is the how, and the middle circle is the why. And what he explains in his talk, and he went on to explain further in his book, Start With Why, is that most companies, all companies, know what they do on the outer circle. They know that they install drywall, or they do HVAC repairs, or they install flooring, or whatever it is. They know what they do. If you go to the next circle inside, he says some companies know how they do it. They understand their value proposition, or they understand their technology or their what makes them unique. Some know how they do what they do. But very few companies understand why they do what they do. And I believe that one of the biggest problems we're dealing with right now that is at the root of the symptoms that I talked about earlier, the inability to get people, or the struggle to get people into the trades, the struggle to keep people in the trades, productivity, quality, etc. That one of the root cause problems is we have a why deficiency. We have a deficiency of why in our companies and in our industries. And just like scurvy is a deficiency of vitamin C that can be simply and dramatically cured with some lemon juice, a lot of our problems can be solved if we can get to why, if we really understand the why. So let's talk about that. So there are two groups I want to talk about. The first group would be the people that we're trying to convince to work in the trades. Let's talk about how are we currently trying to convince people to go into construction. I did a quick search of why to learn a skilled trade. Okay, and here's what I found. I found a list of reasons, and here's what we're saying to people to try to get them to learn a skilled trade and go into construction. It's faster than college. You can make good money. Less debt, maybe no debt. One of my favorites is we need you. Not very effective. College isn't for everyone. Learn a trade and you can earn while you learn. There's lots of opportunities. Office jobs are not fulfilling. You can work with your hands. Your job can't be outsourced. More job security. There's a higher odds of getting a job. Smaller class sizes. You can fill a need. Robots will not take over your job. There's a big demand for people. A lot of people are retiring. Save time, save money, earn more. This is the language that we are using to try to get people into the construction industry. So if you think about Simon Sinek's Golden Circle, this is the what and maybe the how, but there's very little why going on here. So I came across this story of a young man named James Young, and one day after he got off his shift from working at a shoe factory in Philadelphia, he hitchhiked to the local recruiting station, and it was about 88 miles away from his hometown. And when he got there, he found a long line standing outside the office. And he waited in line at this recruiting station. Unfortunately, he was turned away by the Navy because he had 3 cavities. But as he left, he was approached by a Marine recruiter who advised him that his branch, the Marines, were less picky. So before long, James Young found himself serving as a United States Marine. This was in December 1941, shortly after the Pearl Harbor attacks. And prior to the Pearl Harbor attacks, the enlistment numbers in the U.S. military were relatively modest. But on December 8th, at recruiting stations all across the country, there were hundreds of people that had hitchhiked or been driven to their local recruiting station, just like James Young, because they didn't just want a job, because James Young had a job, but there was something else that led him to hitchhike 88 miles and sign up to go fight in the war. And it was patriotism. It was because of what had happened at Pearl Harbor. It wasn't the what, it wasn't the paycheck, it wasn't necessarily the how, but it was the why. The Pearl Harbor attacks gave hundreds of thousands of men and women in America a strong why to do something that they had not done previously. So when we're talking to young people and we're trying to convince them to learn a trade or to come work in construction, to leave that factory job, to leave the warehouse job, to leave whatever they're doing and come work in the construction industry, We would be better off, I think, to abandon things like, hey, it's faster than college. Hey, less debt. Certainly abandon things like, we need you, or people are retiring. That's not communicating much of a why. What if we communicated things like this? What if we said, hey, when you work in construction, you're going to have the opportunity to turn ideas into reality. You'll be able to be part of an effort to take lines on paper, someone's idea, and they're not even sure how it's going to be built, and you can turn that into reality. You can build warehouses. Instead of working in a warehouse, you'll be able to be part of building a warehouse. Instead of working at a factory, you can be part of building a factory. Instead of being in a hospital, you'll have the opportunity to build a hospital. And then not only will you be able to turn ideas into reality, but if you work in residential construction, you have the opportunity to turn dreams into reality. There are people who are dreaming of remodeling their kitchen, building the home of their dreams, building their retirement home, finishing out their basement, replacing their windows, building the deck of their dreams, building the backyard of their dreams. You have the opportunity to turn people's ideas into reality. You have the opportunity to turn people's dreams into reality. You also have the opportunity when you work in construction to do things that most people have no idea how to do. I remember walking around the very first job site that I was on when I got out of school with my dad, who had never been around construction, and he was just blown away. He was just blown away. He had no idea how this stuff even was done. So I've talked to people in the software industry who say things like, I'm jealous. I wish I could be part of a team that built something like that, where I could actually point to it. I wish I could drive by with my kids and say, hey, I worked on that project. So we have the opportunity in construction to do things other people have no idea how to do. We have the opportunity to build things that last decades or centuries. Not only are they visible or they tangible, but we have the opportunity to build stuff that will be there and will serve people and help people's lives be better for decades, maybe even centuries. We have the opportunity to help keep people safe and healthy. If you build roads, or if you build water lines, or if you work in the sewer industry, then you are helping keep people safe and healthy. We also get the opportunity to give people a good place to live and work. If you build single-family homes, multifamily homes, hotels, whatever it is, you're giving people a safe, comfortable place to live. And if you're building office buildings or factories or warehouses or hotels, you are positively impacting people's lives by giving them a good, safe place to work. And then regardless of what kind of work you do, one of the best parts of being in construction, in my opinion, is the opportunity to be part of a team that comes together and works on something worthwhile and faces challenges together and has each other's backs and trusts each other and figures out problems. We get to solve extremely complex problems. We get to solve things that you get to solve things. You get to solve problems that some people have no idea how to tackle. And I think being part of a team that faces problems like that and solves those problems, that is a tremendous value. All right, now let's talk about the second group of people. These are the people who are working in construction already. What can we do to help them be more engaged, to help them be more productive, to help them do more quality work, to help them be more excited, to reduce turnover and keep people happy? I heard a story about a project that was built not long after 9/11 in 2001. This was in late 2001, early 2002. A military installation was built that was going to be a processing facility. And this was a place where people came from all over the country and made final preparations and then shipped out to Iraq, Afghanistan, other parts of the world to fight the war on terror. And the design and construction team got together and challenged the team and said, how can we help the construction team really be engaged in this? How can we help them see the vision of what's happening. And one of the things they did was to paint a sign and place this sign on the gate that every worker came through every morning. And on the sign, it said something to the effect of, "This is the last piece of American soil our soldiers will set foot on before going to war." This is the last piece of American soil our soldiers will set foot on before they go to war. And I asked the guy who was telling me this story, I said, "So how did the project go?" He said, "Everybody wanted to work on that project. Quality was sky high. Punch list was not an issue. Schedule dates, not an issue. Productivity was amazing." Because there was a strong why. The people climbing up and down ladders, working in lifts, wearing hard hats on that job site, they walked through every day and they saw that sign and they were reminded why they were there. And I believe we can do the same thing. Maybe we're not building processing facilities that will be the last piece of American soil for people, for our soldiers and Marines and airmen before they go off to war. But we can find a why, and we can help articulate that why to our people so that they're inspired to do great work. So I jotted down a few examples. These are a few things that I've done in my career. The first one is a hospital project. So if we think about what's the why behind a hospital project, well, I built an emergency department addition for a hospital 15 years ago or so. And not long after that, my father-in-law was actually admitted, went to that emergency room. He laid in that trauma room one night, and it really made me glad. It really made me proud that I had a part in that. So when we're building a hospital addition, we're not just building emergency rooms and making sure that the seamless vinyl flooring is good and that the air quality is right. What we're doing is creating a place where lives will be saved. People whose lives are at risk, their lives will be saved. There will be families whose family members will be saved because of that hospital project, or people will have great experiences in that hospital because of what you're building. So it's not so much about the sticks and the bricks, it's about the people who will be there. And then it's about the nurses and the medical professionals who will work there. We want a good why is let's build a great project where these people can save lives. I spent several years in the sewer rehabilitation industry, cleaning, maintaining, rehabilitating, replacing sewer lines. Not the most glamorous work, especially when most of my career had been in big buildings. You can't see great sewer rehabilitation work. It's all underground. So I had to come up with some good whys to motivate myself and then also motivate my team. So what I told my people was, hey, we are keeping the water, we're keeping the sewage in the pipes. We're keeping sewage out of the water supply. We're keeping the water supply clean for the residents, for your kids, for your family members. This is not a sewer rehabilitation company. This is a water quality company. And then we are also positively impacting the lives of the community, the people who have problems. They have sewer hairdressers who have sewage backing up into their shop. We're going to fix that for them. Homeowners, when it rains, they have sewer backups into their homes. We're going to solve that for them. We did a project. It was a storm sanitary separation project in an area that had a lot of flooding. And there was a little old lady who came out and thanked us because every time it rained prior to that, she had to leave her house because of flooding. But once we built that system and we finished our work, she and her little dog didn't have to leave their house because it didn't flood anymore. If you're doing cubicle remodels, which I've done in the past for big corporate clients, maybe it's hard to find a why, but if you go deep enough, you can find that admin named Katrina who's going to sit in a cubicle for 8, 10, 12 hours a day. And because of the work that we do, Katrina is going to have a good experience. She's going to be able to collaborate with her team members. It's going to be brighter. She's going to have more natural light, and she's going to have a better experience. If you're doing kitchen remodels, you're not just replacing cabinets and countertops and flooring. You have the opportunity to build the dream kitchen for Sharon, who's a grandmother of 6 grandchildren. This is the kitchen that she's dreamed about for years, and they finally retired, and she has visions of Thanksgiving dinners and Christmas dinners with her family. So you're actually making dreams a reality. And I also had the opportunity to spend 2.5 years building a large senior living community, and it was a pretty spectacular project. It was an 18-story building on a hillside, lots of interesting challenges. But the real why there was that there were going to be 250 families, 250 men and women living in those units who were probably going to spend the sunset years of their life there. So they were in their 70s, 80s, 90s, and they were going to choose that facility, and that's where they were going to live out the sunset years of their life. And I wanted to make damn sure that we gave them a great experience, that they had plenty of water pressure in an 18-story building, that the HVAC system was good, that the food service equipment worked right, that everything worked right, so that those people who had lived out good lives and done everything for their families could be taken care of in the final days of their lives. So whose job is it to paint the picture and articulate the why? Maybe people could come up with their own why, but I believe that's leadership's job. I think that's your job as a business owner, as a leader, regardless of what level of leadership you're in. If you own a business, if you're a CEO of a $500 million company, or you're the foreman leading a 2-person crew installing carpet, your job as a leader is to articulate the why. If you want to solve a lot of the problems with getting people to show up and do good work and be productive and care, then articulate the why. Show them why their work matters. Paint the big picture. That's what people want. People want to know that they're part of something bigger than themselves. They want to know that their work matters. And a lot of people can't see that. But that's one of the opportunities that you have as a leader, is to articulate the why. So I would challenge you to do a few things. Look at the symptoms of your organization, your team, your company, and ask yourself, are these a symptom of a why deficiency? And then I would challenge you to do a couple of things. One, figure out what is your why. Why do you want to be a leader? Why do you want to own a business? This is the first exercise I go with everybody in my coaching program, is to establish and clarify your vision and your direction. Why are you doing what you're doing? It's very important. And then the second thing I would challenge you to do is articulate the why for the work that you're doing. Yes, it's important to understand what you're doing. It's important to understand how you're doing it, but articulate the why. I would challenge you to get out of your comfort zone and articulate to your team, and it may be different based on each team, but show them the why. Show them why what they're doing matters. If you go far enough, you will find how what they're doing will positively impact somebody else's life. So I hope that makes sense to you. Attack the why deficiency. As I said, I'm going to be talking about the skilled workforce delusion a lot coming up in the next few months. If you're going to be at the International Builders Show in Vegas, come see me at the National Association of Home Builders Building Systems Council Lounge on February 20th at 4:30. Come see me at JLC Live March 28th. I'll be doing a talk there as well. And if you want to clarify your why, and if you want to eliminate chaos in your business, if you want to take your business to the next level, and be the leader that you know you can be, then there's two things I want to offer to you. First of all is my Construction Business Accelerator program. You can get a tremendous amount of value in there. You'll get my Revenue Maximizer, which will give you the blueprint for helping you map out how to achieve your goals. You'll get the Contractor Sales Accelerator, the project execution formula, the leadership training series. And right now you can get it all for free for 10 days. Go to constructionbusinessaccelerator.com and you can sign up for your free trial there. And if you want to talk to me one-on-one, if you are interested in working with me one-on-one, I'm offering for a limited time, I'll be closing this down soon, I'll be offering a free strategy session where we can talk and I'll help you clarify your vision, outline an action plan of how to get where you want to be, and identify the roadblocks and the lead dominoes you need to focus on to get where you want to be. The first step, if you want to do that, is schedule a free strategy call, and you can do that at constructionleadingedge.com/call, or you can go to my website, constructionleadingedge.com. You can contact me there, fill out the contact form, or there's a red button. You can click there to request your free call. And as always, thank you for listening. Thanks for the ratings and the reviews, and I would love to hear from you. What do you think about this Y deficiency? Send me an email. Look me up on Facebook. I want to hear, does this make sense to you? Do you see that you have a Y deficiency for yourself, for your team? And I would challenge you to take action on that right now. Thanks for listening. I'm Todd DeWalt from ConstructionLeadingEdge.com.